Okay, so this video is on 2.1. We are solving inequalities. We're starting a new chapter today. And I want to just cover a couple of things that you've already done in middle school. If you look at the Common Core progression, these are the things you should have covered. You probably remember writing words into an inequality. You wrote words into an inequality. That was in middle school. You probably remember graphing an inequality on a number line. So something like this. You might have had like x is greater than 2. And you made a number line at 2, and you did this. That's also something you would have done in middle school. Perhaps addition, subtraction, solving like one-step inequalities, kind of basic ones, or even multi. And then word problems. These are all the things that you did. Well, what are we doing now? We're doing almost the same thing, but eventually we're going to go into something called compound and absolute value inequalities. But for the most part, first section, maybe even 3-4 sections of this chapter are something you covered in middle school. Maybe we're going a little bit tougher on it, but otherwise, it's not too much different. So these notes start right here with 2.1 Inequalities Introduction. Hopefully your note handout has a pretty good clean copy, but sometimes these minus signs get stuck on the bottom. So we're just putting a less than, a greater than, or an equal sign to compare. So in other words, 4 is equal to 4. So I'm going to put an equal sign. Can you simply fill in the other 5, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, with the greater than, the less than, or the equal sign? Please also make sure you put the date up here in the corner and pause the video and give those problems a shot. So I'm hearing that we learned this way back, long before 5th grade, which is when I thought you might have learned it. So we know that the answers are going to be pretty simple, greater here, greater there. Even with a negative number, this is a greater than, this is a greater than, and this is a greater than. So a greater than symbol, the alligator's eating to the right, you know what I'm saying? Oh, sorry, to the left, my mistake. So these are all greater than symbols right here, 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 and here. A less than symbol is pointing to the left. So now if we looked at inequalities and we were to graph them on a number line, we'd have this, like this diagram right here. So look on your note paper and see if you're comfortable with it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you that you see that there's a line right under here. I'm going to kind of accentuate that a little bit with my marker. There's a line here. So when there's a line underneath the numbers, right, that's going to be a closed, right, because there's a line. So there's a line there. So it's a closed dot, I guess you could say, because there's a line. That's the reason. And if you look at here, this is a closed dot and a closed dot. So you realize what I'm saying is that if you have, okay, all right, we can fix this. If you have a closed dot, then that has a line underneath the symbol, right? It includes it. And if you have no line right here, no line underneath, so what I'm talking about is right here, there's no line underneath it. This is a line underneath it, and this is not a line underneath it. Those that have no lines, you don't include the number. So this has no line underneath, and it's an open circle. So these are open, O-P-E-N, open. Okay. So hopefully that's okay. We know that otherwise, finding the greater numbers are going to be to the right, and the lesser numbers are going to be to the left, and we just need to shade that way. So green is if you have an open circle, you have no line underneath, or if you have no line underneath, you use an open circle. If you're including the number, including 2 itself, the limit, right, you include that with a closed circle, and you have a line underneath it. So or equal to, or equal to, or equal to. So just a refresher on that, I think we're pretty okay with it, but right now we want to write an inequality for this one. So the temperature T in Sweden, so T, and then it says is at least. So when I say is at least, I want to say it's greater than or equal to negative 10 degrees Celsius. The temperature is greater than or equal to negative 10. I'm going to include negative 10 in my solution set, and I'm going to go greater than that. These are all the temperatures that are negative 10 or better, negative 10 or better. So think about at least. When somebody says you have to be at least, 46 inches to ride the ride. If you're 46 inches, you're okay. If you're 47 inches, you're okay. You can ride the ride at like Six Flags, for example. So That's what's happening. So look at the second statement, right, which is the elevation E of Alabama. The elevation E of Alabama is at most 2407. So that's what we're doing here. So just write down what you think that would be. The elevation E of Alabama is at most 2407. So use my example if you like, and you can pause the video and try part B. The elevation E of Alabama is at most 2407 feet. Try that out. So I'm going to underline and color code for you. Is at most 2407. So remember, since this is review, hopefully you're okay. So pause the video before you you ruin it. You don't want to spoil this. The elevation E is at most, which means that it's less than, or it could be exactly 2407. So E is less than or equal to 2407. So we go to 2407, which is somewhere around here. We include it, and we go less than that, okay? Keep that in mind. Now, some people have made the argument that you always point the arrow, you always shade the inequality the same way that that green symbol is pointing. You notice that the green symbol here is pointing to the left, so we shaded to the left. Some people kind of make that assumption. That's only true if the variable's on the left side, which is where we usually want it to be. So that's only true if the variable's on the left, which in this case it is. So that can mess people up sometimes down the road. Let's keep going because there's a lot of ground to cover here. Although it's not too difficult, and it is review, we do want to be aware and kind of like cognizant of the time so we don't make this a super long video. So look at this. Maybe you flip the page over and you see the original, like with that box with all the answers. We know that this is x is bigger than or equal to 1, okay? So think about what you might have for B, C, and D. Just write the inequality. All I'm doing is asking you to do the exact opposite of what we've done, which is we had an inequality and we graphed it. Now I have a graph and I want you to write it. It's the exact opposite, right? So can you please flip the page and you're on second page and you're trying B, C, and D, okay? B, C, and D. So pause the video and give those three a shot. If you need some help, flip back to the previous page. The box has some help in it, some info. So hopefully you paused the video and you tried B, C, and D. So now we're going to go through these. We see that this one's going to be very similar right here, this one. It's going to be x is, let's put it above actually just because I did it here. X is greater than 1, right? And then we go here, we see x is less than or equal to 1. Here x is less than 1. Notice the difference real quick that this one that has the filled in circle has the little line underneath. Okay, so just a note for you. If the circle is filled in, you have a line underneath the inequality symbol, which means it's less than or equal to, which means 1 is also included in the answer. That's the idea. So let's keep moving. This is kind of the exact same thing, just backwards. Now the writing the sentences from words. A little more challenging, I would say, but not too bad if we just kind of color code. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to color code the first one for you, to show you how to do it. It's a number W, so I'm just going to write the number W. It's minus 3.5, so I'm just going to minus 3.5. And then it says is less than or equal to, so I'm going to put the symbol less than or equal to. And then it says negative 2. So I'm going to put negative 2. That one, I guess I kind of cheated because that one was one of the easiest one. But I don't think B is too bad. So B is a good place to have a now you try. So now you try. You can pause the video or you can just give this a shot. 3 is less than a number n plus 5. All I'm going to do is I'm going to color code 3, right, is less than, and then I'm going to say a number n, and then plus 5. So you just have to translate that into words, okay? So pause the video and try that. If you're feeling good about part B, it might not even be a bad thing to try part C. But these are a little more challenging because people have a trouble getting words into math sometimes. And that's what makes word problems so difficult in a lot of ways. So pause the video and give that problem a shot. So this problem right here, 3 is less than a number n plus 5. So it's really just going to be pretty straightforward. Okay, so it's going to be 3 is less than a number n plus the 5. That's what you wanted. So that's hopefully the answer that you had. Part C, 0 is less than or equal to twice a number plus x plus 1. I'll just go right through it. Greater than or equal to twice a number, which is x, so 2x plus 1. This one's a little bit more because it's twice a number, but not too bad. Just know 2 times that number, whatever that is. So that's pretty much where we're at. It looks like it's fine for you to practice 1 and 2 here, but I don't want to spend too much time because there's a few other things that we want to cover. So we're covering a lot, but we're not covering anything that's super, super crazy hard, is the hope. So if we go to the next page, this one actually I do want to talk about this one. A number b is fewer than 30.4, because what does that mean? I mean, it's b, but it's fewer than. So fewer than isn't that almost exactly the same as saying less than? Every time I see this, and I'm a teacher, I get a little confused by it because fewer than, I have to think, what does that mean? He's fewer than. So I guess less than 30.4. So that's that problem. And then we look at the next one. This isn't too bad. At least greater than or equal to, right? At least. So that's really what's happening there. So on to the last page here. The last page just has a few more things. This is talking about solutions. It might be a wise choice for you to circle or highlight or underline right here this -4, because you want to see if -4 is the solution to it. So you're taking -4 and you're plugging -4 in for x. So you're replacing the x with -4, you're replacing the x with -4, and you're seeing if everything works out. So -4 plus 8 is less than -3. 20 divided by -4 is greater than or equal to -3.5. And is this true? I guess yes or no. Is it a solution or is it not? Would it be colored in if we made the graph, right? That's the thing. So here we have 4 is less than -3, which is not true. No, that's not a solution to the inequality. So the -4 that goes in doesn't satisfy the inequality. Here we have 20 divided by -4, which is -5, is greater than or equal to -3.5. Is -5 greater than or equal to -3.5? Sometimes people say yes, but because -5 is a greater negative number, it's more negative, it's bad, it's a less. It should be less. So no, it's not a solution once again. Also not a solution. So using -4, highlighted in yellow at the top, can you try part C on your own? And we are almost there. So trying part C on your own using -4. So plug -4 in and see if that satisfies, if that is a solution of this inequality. So you do something along these lines here. And then say yes or no. And lastly, there's a couple of graphs here we're going to go through. So I think for part C, we're realizing it's no, right? Because it's not equal. It doesn't have the line underneath. If it had the line underneath, just if it had this line underneath, then it would be true. But because it doesn't have that line underneath, it's not going to be true. So lastly, we want to graph the inequalities. I think you're probably comfortable graphing part A. So I'm just going to move on to part B right now, because this one can confuse some people. We talked about it for a second, because a lot of people are taught in middle school or whatever grade it is, who knows how far back, that you shade the way the inequality points. And because the inequality points to the left, a lot of people color this into the left. So they go like this, they find their 2, right? Maybe 3, and they have 1, and they put an open circle, and then they color into the left. But you can't do that in this situation, okay? You can't do that, because what we want to do is, we want to flip this thing around. The x is being eaten by the alligator. You know what I'm saying? If this is an alligator, right? So this is my picture of my alligator with his teeth and his eyeball. Looks pretty good, right? So if the alligator is eating the x in this original question, the alligator needs to be eating the x in this new question. So it has to be this way. So it's another way of writing it. Either way you can write it, but that helps us to understand that this is going to go greater. All right? Now when you have a decimal or a fraction, all you need to do is put something on the line that's in between the two numbers. So you're somewhere between 0 and 1 for part C. So all you really need to do is make a number line, put 0 on it, put 1 on it, and then just put your answer there, and it's greater, right? So make sure you're able to do part A. Try that out. Make sure you're comfortable with it. And the last thing for today on this video is to write an inequality for this graph. We did it before, so we look at the number and we look at the symbol. So I say here, I'm just going to write it out for you, spell it out for you. I see that it's closed, which means that it's included, right? We're including that. So that means you're going to need to use this, or you're going to need to use this, greater than or equal to or less than or equal to. Now I'm going to use greater than or equal to because I see that they're pointing to the greater numbers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write that x is greater than or equal to -6. That's it. And you can see that it says end here because that is the end of the video. So appreciate your patience, and hopefully it's all making a lot of sense. I will see you in the next video. Peace.